If you fell into the middle of the Pacific Ocean, you would immediately understand the situation. Your heart would spike, your body would brace for the cold, and your brain would start screaming about the 3 miles of dark water beneath your feet. It's an honest kind of fear. The ocean doesn't lie to you. The same goes for standing on the edge of a skyscraper or watching a forest fire crest a hill. These are loud, obvious threats that our ancestors spent 6 million years learning to recognize. But nature is rarely that generous with its warnings. The most dangerous things on this planet don't usually roar. They whisper. They look manageable. They look like a picturesque afternoon in the countryside. Imagine you're walking through a lush English forest and you come across a stream so narrow you could almost jump across it. It's quiet, the moss is green, and the water looks shallow enough to see the pebbles on the bottom. You wouldn't think you were looking at a death sentence. You'd think you were looking at a postcard. But that's exactly how the earth tricks you into a mistake you can't take back. It's so easy to incorrectly judge the power of moving water. And some rivers have spent thousands of years perfecting the art of the trap. Welcome to the Wax and Vein Ledger, an archive of the lesser-known places where the earth doesn't behave the way we expect it to. Today, we're looking at rivers, and why the most dangerous ones aren't the biggest. They're the ones that don't look dangerous at all. To see this deception in its purest form, you have to go to Yorkshire, England, to a stretch of the River Wharfe known as the Strid. From the bank, it looks like a charming little brook, maybe 6 feet across at its narrowest point. It invites you to hop over it. It looks like the kind of place where a Victorian poet would sit and write about clouds. But the Strid is a geological lie. Upstream, the River Wharfe is a wide, powerful body of water. When it hits this specific limestone gorge, the entire river is forced to turn on its side. Imagine taking a massive flowing highway and trying to squeeze it through a keyhole. The water doesn't disappear, it just goes vertical. What looks like a shallow stream is actually a deep, thundering chasm of extreme pressure and hidden currents. The banks are undercut, meaning the rock you see at the surface is just a lip hanging over a massive, hollowed-out cavern of churning water. A single slip sends you into a vertical chute of pressure, stone, and grinding current. The water is so aerated that you lose all buoyancy. You can't swim in it any more than you could swim in a cloud. You simply sink to the bottom while the current wedges you under a shelf of limestone that hasn't seen sunlight in centuries. There is a local legend that the Strid has a 100% fatality rate for anyone who enters it. Whether or not that's statistically perfect, the point remains. It's a river that looks like a puddle and acts like a tomb. But maybe you prefer your rivers a bit more traditional, like the River Llugwy in Wales. It flows through the Snowdonia mountains, and for most of the year, it's a beautiful, boulder-strewn paradise for hikers. It looks rugged, but predictable. The danger here isn't a permanent geological trap like the Strid, it's a matter of timing. Because the Llugwy is fed by mountain runoff, it is subject to flash floods that can turn a peaceful Sunday stroll into a fight for survival in a matter of minutes. The riverbed is a series of constricted stone channels and sudden drops. When heavy rain hits the peaks, the river transforms from a steady flow into a rushing wall of force. The force of water is exponential, not linear. If the speed of a river doubles, the force it exerts on your legs quadruples. By the time you notice the water is getting a little murky and the sound is getting a little louder, you're already standing in a hydraulic recirculation zone. These are spots where the water pours over a rock and creates a literal washing machine effect, trapping anything, logs, kayaks, or people, in a perpetual loop of falling water. The Llugwy is a reminder that a river doesn't have to stay the same size for more than an hour. It's a picturesque mountain stream that can decide to become a landslide made of water whenever the clouds get heavy. If the Llugwy is a lesson in power, the Futaleufú River in Chile is a lesson in the illusion of competence. This river is famous for its stunning, high-definition turquoise water, fed by glacial melt from the Andes. It looks like heaven for elite kayakers, and that's exactly why it's so lethal. It is a Class 5 river filled with holes, spots where the water behaves like a vacuum, pulling objects down and refusing to let them go. The deception here is purely psychological. When water is that beautiful and that clear, we tend to underestimate its violence. We think that if we can see the danger, we can navigate it. But the Futalofu operates on a scale of mechanical deception. The sheer volume of water moving through its canyons creates boils and whirlpools that can flip a multi-ton raft like a coin. It's a place where even the most expensive gear and the highest level of skill are eventually humbled by basic physics. It's the ocean's ferocity disguised as a mountain retreat, proving that nature doesn't need to look muddy or dark to be absolutely merciless. Moving from the mountains to the plains doesn't make things any safer. It just changes the scale of the threat. The Zambezi River in Africa is majestic, wide, and seemingly slow-moving in the stretches above and below Victoria Falls. It's the kind of river that feels ancient and steady, but the Zambezi is an exercise in unpredictable variables. Below the falls, the river is squeezed into the Batoka Gorge, creating some of the most violent rapids on the planet. But even in the calm stretches, the danger is biological. This is a river where familiarity breeds a very specific kind of complacency. You might be focused on the rapids, but the river is also home to hippos and crocodiles who have spent millions of years mastering the art of the ambush in murky water. It's a multi-layered trap. If the rapids don't get you, the wildlife will. If the wildlife doesn't get you, the seasonal shifts in water levels will change the entire geography of the river overnight. The Zambezi is a moving ecosystem, and humans are the least adapted species in it. However, not every deceptive river hides its danger in pressure or predators. In the Peruvian Amazon, there is a river that appears completely ordinary at first glance. It winds through dense jungle like countless other tributaries in the region. The current is gentle, and in many places it looks calm enough to wade across without a second thought. The surrounding forest is alive with birds and insects, and nothing about the scene suggests that you're standing beside something fundamentally hostile. But this river is called Shanai Timpishka, or the Boiling River, a name that roughly translates to boiled with the heat of the sun. And the name is not metaphorical. In certain stretches, the water reaches temperatures close to boiling. Small animals that fall in have been found cooked. The river isn't heated by a volcano. The nearest one is hundreds of miles away. Instead, deep geothermal faults heat groundwater far below the surface, forcing superheated water upward through cracks in the earth until it spills into the river channel. To the eye, it looks like an ordinary jungle river. But step into the wrong stretch of it, and the water can be hot enough to seriously injure you in seconds. At this point, the pattern is pretty clear. None of these rivers look like something out of a disaster movie. In most cases, they look calm, ordinary, the kind of water you might step across without thinking about it. But rivers don't really care how they look from the bank. They run on gravity, pressure, and momentum, quiet forces that don't bother announcing themselves. A few extra inches of depth, a sudden surge from upstream, or a stretch of water moving just a little faster than your legs can handle is often all it takes to turn a peaceful scene into a very bad situation. And that's part of what makes them so fascinating. You don't need something enormous or dramatic to be reminded how powerful the natural world can be. Sometimes it's a narrow ribbon of water in the woods that does the job, quiet, unassuming, and perfectly capable of humbling anyone who forgets what it's doing there. If you've enjoyed this look into the places where the earth hides its teeth, you might want to stick around. We're always looking for the next spot where nature breaks the script. You can follow along by hitting the subscribe button below. It's significantly safer than trying to jump over the Strid, I promise. I'd love to know which of these rivers surprised you the most, or if you've ever had a close call with a body of water that looked a lot friendlier than it actually was. Let's talk about it in the comments. Until next time, stay curious, stay observant, and maybe stay on the bank. The water is deeper than it looks.